Welcome to downtown Los Angeles, friends. You have your boy Groovies here. Today, we are going to talk about embroidery secrets revealed. In this behind the scene episode, we'll talk about specific situations when you are going to get your embroidery manufactured. And there's things that your manufacturer does where you just sit there and scratch your head and go, why? Why? Why does it have to be like that? So we'll dig into those issues and I'll show you the behind the scenes reasons why manufacturers do things in a certain way. And hopefully that can enlighten the situation and you can make a better choice about choosing a better manufacturer or a different manufacturer, or at least go with the manufacturer that you want and you'll know why they're doing the things that they're doing. First off, we have quantity breakdowns. You'll notice that a bunch of manufacturers give you price breaks at certain units. They'll say like 12 cost this much, then 24, then 36, then 72, then 144, and you're like, really? Those numbers? Why? Because they're even numbers? Because they're divisible by 12? Well, the answer is yes, because they're divisible by 12. What makes 12 so special? Is it the lucky number of every embroidery manufacturer there is in the world? Why? Well, the answer is actually pretty straightforward. Embroidery machines, the machines that actually do the sewing and create the embroidery, they come in a certain number of heads, and every head can create one embroidery product at a time. And embroidery machines are sold typically in like 1 head, 2 head, 4 head, 6 head, or you guessed it, 12 head. And so when they're running an embroidery job, your manufacturer, they want to set it up and run full jobs at once. So if they've got a 12 head machine, they want to put 12 hats on the machine and run that one file all at once. So that's why they've based their discounts around those quantity volumes. It has to do with the size of the machine that's running your job. So you'll see some manufacturers just give you a sliding discount. They don't care or tie you to the machine that they've invested time and money in. They're happy to base their business around what you're doing. The next thing that you'll see with embroidery manufacturers is setup costs, and a huge range of different setup costs that you might see go into a job. And you just kind of scratch your head and you're like, $40 to set up my artwork. What am I really getting for this $40? Does it just take that much time and energy to set up a job? And why does one manufacturer charge me $20 to set it up and another one sometimes even over $100 to set up one embroidery job? And the answer has to do with digitization. Digitization is basically a process where they take your artwork and they translate it into a format that an embroidery machine can use. And so a human basically needs to open up your artwork and do that digitization process. And not every person who runs embroidery job has a person on staff doing that digitization. So a lot of times embroidery manufacturers will outsource that digitization to somebody else to set up the file. And just the only thing I will say is the amount that you pay to set up your artwork isn't necessarily tied to the quality of the embroidery that you get out. It just depends on how many different people and what the supply chain of that particular manufacturer looks like. So that's why setup fees can vary so much from one manufacturer to another manufacturer, and why you could give the same artwork file to one embroidery person and a different embroidery person and get a slightly different result out of your embroidery at the end of the day. The next issue that may frustrate you a little bit about embroidery is thread colors. Why, for the love of God, do I get 12 colors to pick from? Just 12? Seriously? One shade of red? Red, 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 red? There's no light red, no dark red, no shades of red, no tints of red, just red. Why? It goes back to how the embroidery machines run. All embroidery machines have just a certain number of needles that they operate on. Many embroidery machines, that's only 12 needles. Some embroidery machines have 15 needles. But for every job, your embroidery manufacturer can change the thread colors. And so you can create embroidery, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, in thousands of different colors. They make threads from here to Zimbabwe, red threads, blue threads, green threads, and tints and shades of thread. There's thousands of them. But many embroidery manufacturers will only stock 12 colors of thread. And the reason is because they don't want to change out the thread colors from running one job to the next job. So they can basically just set up the embroidery machine, get the threads in there, get them loaded, set the tension, and just run the job. And when they're done with that job, just put the next job in and run that one too. And they're not taking the time and the energy to look at the differences in colors that you want in your artwork and to swap out the thread colors on the embroidery machine. And so when you're considering an embroidery manufacturer, there's folks who specialize in different things. People who really want your artwork to come out the way you want it to, and they could offer 50 or 60 different thread colors, so you get some variations of red, not just red. And so just consider that. If you're picking your artwork colors and it's like there's 12 colors, the manufacturer is basically telling you, we're not going to change thread colors for you, you're just not that important. The next head scratcher for embroidery, and a really solid embroidery secret, is why is there so much constraint around size on embroidery? And you'll notice that like embroideries are typically small, like 1 inch by 1 inch, or a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch, or on a hat like 4 inches by 3 inches. And when we see prints, it's like they can be big, bold, like the whole t-shirt. Why can't I do that with my embroidery? And the answer is, there's a couple different answers really. One is thread count. And you'll see embroidery manufacturing places even price out files by thread count. What is thread count? Well, it's the number of actual stitches that go into making your artwork. And the more stitches that are in your artwork, basically the longer that your file is going to take to run on the embroidery machine. The other reason is because in order to attach a product to an embroidery machine, whether it's a hat or a beanie or a t-shirt, the product needs to be hooped. It needs to be placed on a device that holds it flat and holds it steady, and that is attached to the embroidery machine. And the hoop size basically limits the size that the artwork can be. So those are really the two main reasons why embroidery size is usually limited. And so hopefully that makes sense. The next baffling secret that we want to talk about is finishing with embroidery. And what finishing means is basically cleaning up the item after it's run on the embroidery machine. When you're physically stitching a product, even though the machine is automated and it's well run and it's well maintained, there's just some level of cleanup that needs to take place on an embroidery after it's complete. That could be like trimming any loose threads that are there. It could be removing the backing. So if you guys have received, say, a hat or a hoodie or any product that has embroidery, you might have noticed like, wow, there's something white, kind of feels like paper, and it's on the back of my embroidery. It's like, why is it there? And the deal is that backing is required depending on the garment that's used and depending on the embroidery file itself. And there's different types of backing. A good embroidery manufacturer will typically remove as much of the backing as possible before sending the product out to you. But depending on the file and depending on the type of backing, you can't always just totally remove out all of the backing that's in there. Some backing is tearaway. It's pretty easy to tear out and remove, and you can generally get most of it. Other backing is cutaway backing or washaway backing that requires basically it to be cut out with scissors, or it requires 1 or 2 washes before that backing is going to come out. One of the last and most probably frustrating issues that comes up in running embroidery is changes to the artwork. Like, let's say you've invested that $100 from your manufacturer to get your artwork set up, and it's perfect. Maybe ran a sample, you made some tweaks, you made some changes, and it's perfect 1 inch by 1 inch. You're like, this is awesome. Now I want to put it on a t-shirt at 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. I already paid the setup fees, right? I don't need to pay them again, right? You've probably heard from your embroidery manufacturer, like, nope, that's new artwork. And you're like, the file's the same. It's the same file. Why are you trying to charge me again? You just feel like your embroidery manufacturer's like totally trying to stick it to you. But the reality is, it all kind of goes back to digitization. Since you're not just like printing the artwork, since you're literally physically stitching each one, the digitization process tells the embroidery machine every stitch that needs to be put in. So an area that was, say, this big on 1 inch now becomes this big on 2 inch, right? So it's twice the size. You actually need to completely re-digitize that file. So just because you've set up an artwork one time, really anytime you change that artwork, either the base garment or the size of it, you can really expect that there's another setup fee that's associated with it. I know it's painful, I know it's not what you'd expect, but it kind of sucks and it happens. What you should be able to do with your artwork is switch thread colors. If it's the same base product that you're sewing it on and it's the same size artwork, a change of the thread color usually shouldn't require any redigitization of the artwork. As long as all the black turns to white or all the white turns to black, you should be good. If you're just changing one specific area of the file to go to a different color, that could require redigitization. The other thing to keep in mind about artwork changes is if you're reordering the same product, you should be able to use the exact same file again. And if you have a good manufacturer, they should keep that artwork on file for you so you can use it again a second time. Which leads us into another issue, which is, hey, I've paid this one manufacturer over here to set up my file. I ran a sample and it looked great and we're super happy with it. Now I want to take that file and take it to manufacturer B and have them run the job for me. Many manufacturers are going to be like, no, we're not comfortable with that. And there's actually a reason for it. I know it's so frustrating, but here's why. Just because a file works on one set of embroidery machines doesn't mean it'll translate well for another embroidery machine. In fact, most embroidery operators are going to be super suspicious of an outside file. Why? Because a bad file, a file that's not set up to work on their framework or hasn't been done by their digitizer, could create serious issues for their embroidery machine. So most embroidery manufacturers are going to require that they set up your artwork for their practices. So hopefully that explains the why for all these issues that could come up in running embroidery jobs for you. Maybe you've run into one or two of these issues before. If so, hit us up in the comments box below. If you've ever been frustrated with embroidery, maybe now you know. Take a deep breath, it's okay. Embroidery is an amazing product that you guys can create, whether you're doing sampling or bulk runs or doing it on demand through drop shipping. You can create amazing products. You just gotta have a little bit of patience and a little bit of understanding about things that are happening on your manufacturing side. Hopefully, we can both see each other's sides here. So hit us up in the comments box below. Subscribe for one video a week. We're putting down sharing secrets, manufacturing secrets, why things are the way they are. So peace be with you from downtown Los Angeles. This is your boy Groobies, over and out.